Hello and welcome. Uh, Thank you for visiting this channel. Uh, Today, let us talk about the fourth quarter of the Hebrew Israelite game. Yes, the fourth quarter of the Hebrew Israelite race. Many of you do not know that we are in a race as a people for life. We are in a race that will decide who will inherit the promised land. These things are hidden from so many of our people who goes about life aimlessly without knowing what is going on. But we are in a race for life. And the earlier you walk up to the fact, the better for you to win the race. It will be for you to win the race. So we are going to discuss the fourth quarter of this game because that is where we are now. Let me start by explaining this. In this game of life, God, our God, is the referee with the whistle. He is the referee that started this game or this race. He started this race when he spoke to Abraham in the book of Genesis chapter 15, verse 13 to verse 16. Follow along as I read that. The book of Genesis chapter 15, verse 13 to 16. There God told Abram, he reads, Then he said to Abram, Know for certain that your offspring will be foreigners in a land not theirs, and that the people there will enslave them and afflict them for 400 years. But I will judge the nation they will serve, and after that they will go out with many goods. As for you, you will go to your forefathers in peace. You will be buried at a good old age. But they will return here in the fourth generation, because the era of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure. So God set this race or this game in play when he told Abraham that his descendants, that it is in the fourth quarter or in the fourth regeneration of the descendants of Abraham in the land that he will give to Abraham and his descendant to inherit. It is in the fourth quarter or in the fourth regeneration that they will inherit this land forever. So with that statement, God set the game in motion. And since then, the Hebrews, descendants of Abraham, has been running this race in order to win the prize, which is to inherit the promised land forever. But for the meantime, it will be a battle, a game battle between the Israelites and the Amorites as to who will take possession of the land. But God's promised word is that in the fourth generation is when the chosen descendants of Abraham will inherit the promised land forever. So in this game of life or battle for the promised land, in the first quarter, Israel came out of Egypt, out of their captivity in Egypt, to inherit the promised land and possess it for a while. After a little while, they were kicked out of it. Then in the second quarter, or in second regeneration, Israel returned from Babylon to inherit the promised land. They possessed it for a while. The Amorites came and took over again. Israel was kicked out of the promised land and scattered among the Grecians. In the third quarter regeneration, Israel returned from the Grecian slavery and captivity, and they gathered back again in the promised land and take possession of the land. Until the Romans came, until the birth of the Messiah, and the Romans came and took over the land and scattered Israel among the nations. Israel is still waiting for their fourth and final regeneration back to the promised land. Because in the fourth quarter, or in the fourth regeneration, is when they will possess the land, the promised land, forever. We are in the fourth quarter. The fourth quarter started with the death of the Messiah. And the fourth quarter will last for 2,000 years. That is the time scheduled for the fourth quarter. And we have to run this race until the clock runs out. So how are you plan? What is your plan for the fourth quarter? How do you plan so that you can win the game? How do you play so that you can be among those that will return back to the promised land? The game is happening on, but only those who play the game according to the set rules and according to the set pattern, those are the ones that will return and win the race at the end. Follow along as I read what is written in the book of 2 Peter chapter 4, verse 7. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 7. And there Peter reminded us of this. He said, "The end of all things has drawn near. Therefore be sound in mind and be vigilant with a view to prayer." Yes, Peter reminded us we have entered the fourth quarter that will decide who will inherit the promised land forever. The fourth quarter that will decide who will win the prize for life for the Hebrew Israelites. We have entered the fourth quarter. He said the end of all things has drawn close. We played the first quarter. We played the second quarter. We played the third quarter. Now is the fourth quarter. It's time to be on your best game plan. It's time to execute so that you can win the game. Because once this whistle is blown for the end of this fourth quarter, that is it. It's either winners or loser. So we have to play so that we can win the game of life. The end of all things have drawn close. We are in the fourth quarter. In fact, the fourth quarter is about to come to its end. We have like few minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. So what can you do so that you can win the game? As I said, this game will last for 2,000 years. The Messiah was put to death around the year AD 33. And since then, we have entered the fourth quarter of this game or this race. AD 33 plus 2,000 years will get you to the year 2033. So how are you playing so that you can win the game of life? So that you can win the race for life. Follow along as I read what is written in the book of Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 10, verse 21 and to 23. Pay attention to what is written. Verse 21 to 23. It's written, only a remnant will return, the remnant of Jacob, to the mighty God. For though your people, O Israel, are as the grain of the sand of the sea, only a remnant of them will return. An extermination has been decided on, and justice will engulf them. Yes, the extermination decided on by the sovereign Lord Yahuwah will be carried out in the entire land. So it is written that only a remnant of Israel will return back to the promised land at the end of this fourth quarter. God is not going to gather everybody. He is only going to gather only a few remnant back to the promised land. Those are the ones that will win the prize. Those are the ones that will win the goal, the race for life. Will you be among one of them? Only a remnant of us will return back to the promised land. The rest of the people of Israel, they will be exterminated because of the sins of our ancestors. For Israel, it became a stubborn nation, and they did so many things. And our God said that the wages of sin, of rebellion, is death. So the rest of Israel that didn't make it back to the promised land, the scripture said that an extermination has been decided because the wages of sin against our God is death. So will you run so that you will be among those who will return back and make it back to the promised land? So that you will be among those that will stand at the podium and win the prize or the race for life. Just keep that in mind. Only a remnant of Israel will return back to the mighty God. The rest will be exterminated in all the land. And if you know your God, Yahuwah, whatever he says, he will do, he will do. He will carry out at the appointed time. He said that he can even go and find a man to carry out his will. So if he said that he's going to exterminate the rest of the Israelites, he's going to do it. And you cannot question him for whatever he does. So only a remnant will return at the end of this fourth quarter. Only a remnant will win the prize. Run that you can win the prize. Follow along as I read Isaiah, the book of Isaiah, chapter 65, verse 8 to 10. Isaiah chapter 65. This is what our God said concerning the people of Israel, descendants of Abraham that he is dealing with. Follow along as I read. Isaiah chapter 65, verse 8 to 10. There is written, this is what Yahuwah says, just as when a new wine is found in a cluster of grapes, and someone says, do not destroy it, for there is something good in it. So I will do for the sake of my servants. I will not destroy them all. I will bring out of Jacob an offspring, and out of Judah the one to inherit my mountains. My chosen ones will take possession of it, and my servants will reside there. Sharon will become a pasture for sheep, and the valley of Anchor a resting place for cattle, for my people who search for me. Yes, God has already decided that he will not destroy all people of Israel, the descendants of Abraham that he is dealing with. But he said he will take out of Judah and out of Jacob the ones that will inherit his holy mountain, that is the promised land. In the fourth quarter, or in the fourth regeneration of Israel in the land, he said he will choose the ones that will win the prize, the race for life. His people who search for him. Many of us aren't searching for our God. Rather, we are following the gods given to us by the other nations, and we have been serving the gods of the other nations, just as our God foretold that he would scatter us among the nations, and there we will be serving the gods of other nations and not our own God. So, will you wake up, because it is the last minutes of the fourth quarter, and soon the whistle will be blown for the end of the game, and only a remnant will win the prize. Will you run so that you can win the prize? By searching for your God so that you can return to him and serve him. Again, follow along as I read the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 4, chapter 9, verse 24. Book of 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 24. And there it is written, verse 24. So do you not know that the runners in a race all run, but only one receives the prize? It's a run in such a way that you may win it. Yes, in a race, there are so many competitors, but at the end, only one receives the prize. And Paul is encouraging us to run this race for life so that you will be the one that will receive the prize at the end. So that you can be among the ones that will stand at the podium to receive a medal of having run the race correctly and having finished on top. Paul said, run so that you can win the prize. So, again, we are in the fourth quarter, and we are in the last minutes of this quarter. The game is coming to an end. It is. Soon we are going to hear the final whistle. Um, you have to up your game, up your defense, up your offense, play according to pattern, play according to plan, so that you can win at the end the game of life. For at the end of the final whistle, winners and losers will be decided. So Paul said, run so that you can win the prize. Again, thank you for the privilege to come to you to share these things. As is written, in the last days, those with insight will help others to return back to righteousness. And righteousness is to return back to our God. That is the right thing to do, to seek for our God, to search for Him, in order for us to return to Him, to worship and to serve Him. We are to leave the gods of the nations alone and seek for the God of Israel, Yahuwah. And He will reveal Himself to us. Perhaps He will choose you to be among the ones that will take possession of the promised land at the end of the fourth quarter or fourth regeneration. So if you have enjoyed this, click the like button, subscribe to my channel, check out the videos that I have uploaded. I know the truth is hidden to so many people, but those who are searching for the truth will find the truth. And when you hear the truth, if you are of the ones chosen, you will understand the truth. For God will reveal the truth to you. So if you enjoyed this discussion, like my channel, make comments. I want to hear your input, what you think about what you're hearing. Until next time when I get to you, or when you check out my channel, every now and then I upload videos teaching the truth, showing people what the scripture is really teaching, things that are not being told to you by the churches, scriptures that are hidden from the masses, but only the chosen ones know about these things that our God is revealing. Again, thank you for paying attention. Until I come to you next time, run so that you can win the prize of life. Thank you.